Hello, Sean. Thank you so
Hello,
much for
Vim.
joining us. An Olivier Award-winning
Oh, I'll tell you
writer.
what I'm going to do.
Go on.
So you don't get, we'll have to start again. I'm going to turn my email off because it will ping all the time.
No, that's allowed, mate. That's allowed. You can
Is
show
it?
that you're good at multitasking. Isn't
I
that
am
what?
multitasking. I'm literally running a huge theatre as we speak.
That is brilliant.
Unfortunately, it's shut down.
So, Sean, for those who don't know, tell us. I almost sound like Cilla Black. Tell us your name and where you're from. Tell us your name and tell us what you do.
I'm Sean Foley, and I was still relatively recently appointed the artistic director at Birmingham Repertory Theatre, the Rep. There it is on Centenary Square, and currently shut, like all other cultural institutions and many other shops and businesses because of COVID-19 crisis.
I mean, firstly, how have you been coping with the COVID-19 crisis yourself personally?
I've been very lucky. I'm healthy. My family are healthy. I do have friends who've had it, but in a mild way. I also have friends whose family members, some of them, older family members, have died, but it hasn't absolutely, thankfully, come into my sort of family group. So I count myself extremely lucky.
Mm-hmm. And what about Birmingham Rep? How have they been coping with it? The whole.
Well, it's been, it's been really difficult. It's been obviously it's a massive crisis. I think we were quite good in that I saw it coming. I couldn't understand why the government weren't moving quicker. So we in the organisation started making plans for shutting the theatre probably a week or so in advance of most people were thinking about it, because I could see, that in Europe, on the continent, and other countries were taking that action, and I couldn't really quite understand why we weren't. I still can't to this day understand that delay, but it was clear that in our industry, which is a place of people coming together, people going out for the evening, people wanting to enjoy themselves, it's an awful thing to shut those places, but they are places where people are in close proximity, and that's what exactly happened on Monday the 19th. Actually, I had a show running in London's glittering West End as well, because I directed the stage version of Upstart Crow, the sitcom about Shakespeare, with David Mitchell, and that was going great guns. We were absolutely rammed. It was 1,000 people a night in the theatres. But even that, I thought, no, we've got to shut. We've got to shut. And so, as it was throughout the country, we shut Birmingham Rep. So all the shows that were going to go on, our deputy artistic director was just going to do a production of Romeo and Juliet, a community theatre production, mixed in with some of our youth theatre. That didn't even go ahead, never saw the light of day.
There must be a lot of frustration for Birmingham Rep and for yourself, because obviously this is your first season at Birmingham Rep, so yeah. You haven't had an opportunity to showcase your talent. I mean, no. You just talk about with David Mitchell appearing in your play itself. Am I right in thinking that you've been nominated for an Olivier Award for that particular play itself?
Let me take you through.
Or am I making this up?
No, actually, that show has been nominated for an Olivier Award. Yeah, I mean that's the 5th production that I've directed that has been nominated for an Olivier Award. One of which runs. So it's only 20% success rate, but even getting nominated is quite something.
Listen, that's going on your CV, isn't it?
There it is. And also, I've won a couple of them myself for shows that I co-wrote and starred in, because I act, direct, and write. Yeah, so we were all thrilled that Upstart Crow got that. But that, like everything else, it seems, of course, it's ridiculous and doesn't really matter. But the Olivier Awards have been postponed, and
so for you, when do you think realistically you're looking at showcasing the first play that you're going to, in fact, what will be the first play that you're looking at directing?
Okay, so I was looking forward to directing a hilarious musical comedy called Something Rotten, which had been a big hit on Broadway, and this would be its UK debut. So everyone was very, very excited to do it. It's a show, like I say, I think it's probably one of the funniest musicals I've ever seen. And it was, it's a comedy for people who don't like musicals and a musical for people who might like a bit of comedy. So, and it's about, actually what it's about, I was tweaking it with the original Broadway writers to get it set in Birmingham, because it concerns a set of brothers who we were going to turn into Brummie brothers, who are rivals of William Shakespeare in the playwriting stakes. And Shakespeare keeps getting all the commissions, keeps getting all the big jobs, and they're racking their brains about how to beat him, and they come up with the idea of making their play a musical. So it's a sort of show about people inventing the musical.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's really fun.
Yeah, and for those, again, for people who haven't seen your plays, what would you say is the magic that you put on the plays itself? Is it highlighting the comedy? Is it the farce, or what is it? Is it a certain style that you bring to it where people go, that's definitely Sean's signature on that particular piece itself?
Well, I don't know if it's signature, but I've always worked in, because my background was, I started my own theatre company, which sounds very grand, but it's basically all it is to going, I'm going to start a theatre company. and we didn't have anything. We built our own first set, got, I think, goodness knows how, but, we got a few small theatres, tiny theatres like art centres, to persuaded them to put us on, got a tiny little tour together of about 7 or 8 dates and did this show. And that's how I started. And, but right from the beginning, I always worked with creating shows that were funny, but funny, not just, verbal gags, but also physical comedy. And, I sort of trained as, physical comedian, and did a lot of work on sort of mime and things like that. So there was always a mix of, a story told through jokes, basically.
Are you the type of director that will, because with comedy, it's instant, isn't it? It's either funny, not to everyone, because obviously people always laugh at different times. Sometimes I can find something so funny, and the person next to me is just kind of like, well, I didn't think that was funny. Do you kind of continue, like, reevaluate it, where it's you're watching the show and say after a week you kind of go, no one's laughing at that, and I thought it was really funny, where you go, I need to change it, or do you kind of go, no, it's staying?
Well, that's a great question. It's a constant process. So first of all, particularly as a director now, mainly director now, you will work on the script with the writer beforehand, firstly to sort of organize it so you've got a story. All the best comedies are dramas, but they've got to tell a story. You've got to follow a character, but, then you've got to have enough jokes to get through to, so you do a lot of work in preparation, and then obviously in rehearsal you're working with the actors to try and squeeze the lemon. I always say you've got to squeeze the lemon. You've got to try and get every last drop of comedy out of every little part of the show without overplaying it. And then when you get it in front of an audience, I always put it like this, is that you direct a show 3 times. First of all, in preparation, then you direct it with the actors in rehearsal, and then you direct it in your redirect it when you start hearing the audience. Start hearing what they understand. Like you say, some things, it's always the case where you go, oh, this is going to get a great laugh, or we all laughed about it in rehearsal, or, and you get out there and it gets a titter. And some relatively benign line that you didn't think was anything, usually to do with the plot, actually, but suddenly you get this huge laugh and you go, what? Oh, Well, you know, so you're constantly alert for what the audiences are picking up and where they want the show to go. So I always say that then you redirect a comedy in previews. You know, if you're lucky enough to have several previews, you kind of redirect it.
Just slightly moving from that is what are your, and maybe this is the bigger picture, coming away slightly away from directing the plays and that, what are your own ideas for Birmingham Rep itself? Obviously you've come in with a new team, you want to assume your kind of, your culture, your thought process, your ideas into play, otherwise you literally be copying somebody else's. So I mean, what are your ideas for Birmingham Rep, or for Birmingham even?
Well, one of the reasons I thought would be great job to get, and I was lucky enough to get it, is that, you know, Birmingham is UK's second city, as they say. It's the only other UK city of over 1 million people. It's a big international city, but it's sort of never quite seen as that, even within the UK. You know, it's got to. But I sensed that there's, you know, a bit of a renaissance. There's a lot of money coming into the city. Although of course it's got, you know, familiar problems of inequality which need to be addressed. But you know, at the same time, there's a sort of a kind of new confidence. You know, there's sort of city centre getting rebuilt, and I felt that the theatre itself, which people may not be aware that. You know, Birmingham Repertory Theatre, from its original building on Station Street, was the first purpose-built repertory theatre in the world. It's like one of these things whereby, you know, Birmingham got there first and then sort of let other people go ahead. Like Edgbaston Tennis Club, I was reading, was the first lawn tennis club in the world, and everyone thinks it's Wimbledon. But so Birmingham Repertory Theatre was the forerunner of both the RSC and the National Theatre. It was all done here first. And so it's got this incredible history, which Birmingham should be really proud of. And, you know, I felt I could contribute to sort of putting it back up there a little bit more, so that it should be considered amongst, you know, the National Theatre, the RSC, you know, one of the major theatres in the country, and be known internationally. So I just wanted to try and, you know, use my efforts to do that, really.
Do you think that's a real interesting point there? I mean, I didn't realise about Birmingham Rep being one of the first repertoire theatres here in the UK, or in the world, was that? In the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was definitely the first purpose-built one in the UK, and I think
yeah.
it was almost in the world, yeah.
And it's that whole kind of thing of, I always say that people in Birmingham, they're just so laid back. They don't really shout about it. It's almost like, yeah, big deal. Whereas if it was in London, it's like, oh, yeah. All right, mate, we've got this, we've got that. Whereas anywhere else.
Or even the classic case is Manchester, isn't it? Because
totally.
The Manchester vibe is, yeah, we're the bloody best, mate. You know? But like you say, the Birmingham vibe is, ooh, all right.
Yeah.
You know, don't get ahead of yourself.
Do you think it's changing that kind of, maybe that culture of kind of going, just mention it, just talk about it. There's no harm in kind of saying how great the city is. There's no harm in talking about places in Birmingham and saying, you know, this was the first place here. It's actually a positive thing. Do you think it's kind of re-educating people about that?
I think letting people know about that history is sometimes just sort of all you need to do. There's a young guy who works in theatre, Corey Campbell, who actually works at Coventry Belgrade at the moment. He's a Brummie guy. And I just had a meeting with him, you know, and I said, well, you do know, of course, that Birmingham Rep was, you know, the first this, the first that, had the first ever modern dress Shakespeare in the world, had the, you know, and he was sort of looking at me going, I work in theatre and I'm from Birmingham. I didn't know all this. And he said he suddenly made him feel really proud to be a guy from Birmingham working in theatre. And so I think it is partly that, but it can't all just be about the past, obviously. But the past can inspire you, because what it meant was that actually Birmingham Repertory Theatre was a pioneer. It was a pioneering theatre, all sorts of firsts in the UK happened. It was the first time they put on any of these, at the time, weird and wacky kind of European playwrights. Like,
I'm waiting to walk into Birmingham Rep now and see, did you know facts?
Did you know? Did you know? Yeah, I mean, why not? But that sort of past, pioneering past, can and should inspire us to be pioneering in different ways.
Definitely. What other plans have you got in terms of ambitions? So obviously putting it on the international stage, which is something you've talked about. Is there anything in terms of work-wise incorporating different styles of plays, or incorporating? I mean, there's this big thing about, are you looking at an international presence where you do away with local theatre, with local actors, and it's a case of, well, wait there, we only want the big names to be performing? A lot of people believe that it's the local actors who help with, obviously, regional theatre, any type of theatre, just generally.
Yeah, well, I do totally agree with that. I think my answer to that is you need everything. We're lucky enough. See, Birmingham Repertory Theatre is lucky enough to be a theatre that we've got 3 auditoria, so we've got 3 theatres in one. So we've got the sort of classic small scale black box studio theatre, 150 seats. Then we've got this new theatre that we share with the bit that's been built between us and the new library. There's a new theatre there, 300 seats. That's the sort of size of doing new, amazing new plays we should be putting on there. And then we've got the much bigger auditorium. I know there's other bigger, like Hippodrome is obviously really big theatre, but that's our biggest one, and that's still pretty big. That's 850 seats. So we're lucky enough to be able to put on different types of plays from different heritages, and to make sure that we, I'm a big proponent of going, it's already here in Birmingham. Why, or maybe really well-known Birmingham people have gone away, to make their fortune, as it were, or follow their career, but they still want to be part of it and come back. I mean, the obvious ones, obviously, Lenny Henry and Adrian Lester and Mira Sayal, but there's all sorts of other people who would love to come back and work with us, and that's great. And to be able to connect that kind of talent, national level talent, with the talent coming through in Birmingham itself, is really, that would be the sweet spot for me. That would be the really best way of promoting the idea of Birmingham talent. I think should be part of what we're doing at the Rep.
I mean, that's are they currently ambassadors for Birmingham Rep as well? Are they?
Actually, Adrian Lester has very recently come onto our board as well. So they're involved to greater or lesser degree. And actually, one of the things that I did, although we've never actually had a meeting yet, although we've had one virtual meeting, we were all going to get together, take a nice photograph and get that out to everybody. But I set up this thing of having artistic associates, which all that is really is people who want to be associated with the theatre. Obviously, that's in the title, but Birmingham people who have, are established in their careers. So it's not the early career people, but they're established in their careers. Writer and actress. I mean, Mira Sayal is on that. Another writer, actress, Lolita Chakrabarti, is on that. Fantastic filmmaker and playmaker, Debbie Izzet, who's more associated with Coventry because she lives there now, but was a Birmingham girl. Iqbal Khan, the director. Muhammad Ali, who's often known as the Birmingham Banksy. He's a visual artist, but he's become an associate of the theatre. Selena Thompson, who's a younger local artist working in theatre. Tyrone Huggins, who's sort of been an amazing figure on the Birmingham scene for a long time. He's part of the new associate group. I'm going to miss someone out, and they're going to.
Is it Lorna? Is it Lorna?
Lorna Laidlaw. So we had this virtual meeting, that
you knew that all the time. I knew you knew her name. I just thought I'd get the name in there.
Every time I do something like this, I've got all those lists of people to go through, and I think I'm going to miss one. I'm going to miss one. Yeah, so we're lucky that people like that want to, join in basically, and sort of say, yeah, we're proud to be, one, from Birmingham, and two, supporting the Rep. There's also a couple of associate companies as well. There's a brilliant director choreographer called Drew McConey, who's going to be an associate company with us, and he was the original boy in The Snowman.
Right.
And then he's gone on to have this wonderful career as a first dancer and then choreographer. And then a guy called Paul Hunter as well, who runs a company called Told by an Idiot, who were recently at the Rep in the new theatre, The Studio, doing a play about Charlie Chaplin. So again, he's another Birmingham-born guy who wants to help. So we're really proud to get that group of people together.
I mean, that's absolutely wonderful. What about for the guys who aren't quite established yet? There's always this maybe frustration, having chatted to local actors, saying, I'm not getting the opportunities. Will those opportunities still be there? I know that you do things like the Foundry, which you've had, which is a program to encourage new artists, new actors to get involved. Yeah. Is that something you're shying away from, or kind of slightly setting it back where you've got other priorities, or does it have a different kind of importance?
Well, yeah, I just think that, we're going to start, practical things we're going to do. We're definitely going to do castings for all the big shows we do in Birmingham as well as in London. And, then we've got to let the cards fall where they may, just basically it still has to be best person for the job. But we're definitely going to cast here. We're going to, we actually have started, partly because people, in our business, like any other business at the moment, people are isolated, and you can certainly feel that if you're a solo actor or a solo artist of any type. So we've started this sort of series of town hall meetings, almost virtual ones on the Zoom. We had 80 people on Tuesday evening, just letting them have the opportunity to meet us for one. So I was there, our deputy artistic director Amit Sharma was there, and our associate director Madeline Kludgy was there as well. And so they can meet us all and ask questions like you're asking, actually. So the answers to which were, yes, we do want you to work here, and yes, we're going to try and set up the right things in order so that you can come and work here.
There was somewhere where I read something that you're also thinking of setting up masterclasses online. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what is? And those are free, are they?
Yeah, they'll be free. Yeah.
Okay. Well, why have you decided?
I can't guarantee the quality.
Okay. Are you leading them then?
I'll be doing one. Yeah, we're going to do that, and again, going throughout the, we've got a lot of skills, obviously, within the building. Not just me, for example, as a director, but the backstage people. Some people are interested in learning about that. So our production managers and our technical people, they'll be doing masterclasses as well. It's all about, while we're out of the building, I think we came up with a title for all this series of, masterclasses, talks, interactions between us and whoever wants to come along can come to these things. It's called REPurposed. If you write it out, it says REPurposed. So that's the title. So we've, as it were, the thought being that we're repurposing while we're out of the building. We can't be in the theatre, but there's still things we can do and skills we can share with people.
And that's quite interesting, because obviously during this whole lockdown, there's been this whole movement towards, we're doing it currently now, where we're having a conversation via Zoom. Saves me taking transport into Birmingham, meeting up, all that kind of stuff. It's literally I've crawled out of bed going, oh my gosh, no, I haven't. I've got a meeting with Sean.
That is what I did though.
do you think that this is going to be used in that positive manner whereby perhaps now with I know that sometimes organisations have done auditions where you've done them online, but whereby devising, I've recently been involved in devising and creating online. Is that something that you guys will also be looking at, or do you think it's something you want to steer away from once lockdown's over?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that, even people who hadn't been used to, logging online, having meetings online, seeing things online, that's the only access people have to, what the broad term culture, which is like, watching your favorite TV thing, watching a film. Now there's a growing sense of actually, you can watch a bit of theatre online. I know there's, some of the bigger and more better invested big theatres like National Theatre and the RSC have got a library of plays that they've recorded, very, very well, and they're great plays and they're great productions, and they're putting those online, and they're being very successful in terms of people viewing them. What they're not very successful at is charging anything, which may feel like, well, I mean, of course, that's the National, they should put it out for free, but what that ultimately means is, you wouldn't expect to go to a theatre and have it for free, because ultimately what it means is you can't pay the actors, you can't pay all the people who've made it. So as an industry, we've probably got to work out a way of using this. It's not a new technology, but let's say a new way of accessing theatre. We've got to work out a way of delivering it to people who, could be really useful. Some people can't get to the theatre. Why shouldn't they enjoy?
It's almost like a teaser trailer where it's a case of, oh, start watching this. This is free. If you want to continue, pay £5.
Well, that's another way of doing it. Or is it more of a sort of subscription thing where you've got a Netflix thing where you say, well, actually, you pay £5 a month to the Birmingham Rep, and they put all their plays on there, whether it's in the main house or the interviews or the masterclasses. You can have a library of stuff there that people can access.
That's quite an interesting thing, isn't it?
I think that will start to happen.
That is quite an interesting thing, because when you start looking at TV, generally in terms of media, where people talk about subscriptions, you pay X amount of money, you can watch whatever shows you want to. Is that possible? Something that could happen at Birmingham Rep, where monthly you go, here's £50 a month, you can see whatever shows you want to. Just book them in advance. You can, but you've got to have a minimum of a 12-month commitment. In terms of that subscription. Is that something?
I absolutely think that will come. In fact, I've been speaking to several companies about literally that, about working together to create that for the Birmingham Rep. So it would be like a site that you go to, and it was like live at the Birmingham Rep or something. And you go in, you use it like turning up at a venue. You go, oh, what do I want to see today? And so it does work like people are really used to that now.
Yeah.
Remember when these things first come out, I'm like that. I sort of go, Netflix, how on earth does this work? You're sort of going like, how can I? You very, very quickly get used to navigating how to find what you want to watch. And I think that will happen with theatres, certainly the bigger ones, and we should at Birmingham Rep, I want us to be leading that new area actually. So it is good for access as well. For, like I say, some people can't get into the theatre, or they can't get there at that time. You can watch when you want, but also it could be fun if you go, well, actually, one show a week, we're going to do a live stream. So you get the experience of it sort of live as well.
No, it sounds like interesting times. With currently what's gone on in the world in relation to Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Is this something that has an impact on your way of thinking of maybe shows that you put on, or maybe in terms of how the organisation is run, or from a perspective where you reevaluate or implement new ideas and new strategies to incorporate people who may feel that they are they're at a disadvantage?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a time, I hope, for everyone to reset and really properly think about what they can do themselves, and particularly, obviously, if you're in a leadership position in any organisation, you absolutely should be thinking about what you can do and implementing it. It's not just thinking about it, it's implementing it. I mean, I thought quite a long time about even applying for the job at Birmingham Rep, because it's such a diverse city that, you know, it's sort of, listen, look at me, I'm another middle-aged white guy, balding, glasses now, so it's important that people know that, you know, if people are in positions of leadership, they're taking these things seriously. And the direction of travel at Birmingham Rep, I'm happy to say, was already very good. You know, we won the UK Theatre Diversity Awards last year, I think it was, and there are a lot of people. You know, the workforce is in general more recently becoming much more diverse, but not in the sort of upper reaches, the sort of leadership team, the you know, the sort of, and also backstage and the sort of management. And so we've got an opportunity now, partly through, you know, this shutdown, partly because as I'd come in, there's a new executive director who's sort of partner. You know, if you think about show business, I'm the artistic director, so I'm show, and the executive director is a woman called Rachel Thomas, who's business. So, and together jointly we run the organisation. We'd already started to reorganise, and so we've actually carrying quite a few job opportunities at the Rep in big jobs. So, you know, we absolutely now see that as an opportunity to really take steps to make sure that we are recruiting on, you know, in a way that is open to all communities, and that we can create a much more diverse workforce throughout the building.
In terms of your own background, you were actually born, am I right to have read that you were born in Birmingham?
Oh, I wasn't born in Birmingham. I'll tell you that.
Damn! Damn! Go on.
Close. It must have been very close.
Coventry, Leicester, Derby.
No, I was actually born in Cleethorpes in Lincolnshire.
Oh gosh, that's nowhere near.
No. Try getting there. Nobody knows where to stick a pin on the map for that. But yeah. So my mum's a Brummie, working class Brummie, and my dad was an Irish immigrant. So he came over early 60s. Very, very typical Birmingham story. Really, and you know, so, and then I think he must have got a job just before they were living in Birmingham, and then he got a job. He got a job in Cleethorpes, which is near Grimsby. So they moved up there, and in short order had my elder sister, and then me, and then we moved around a bit. But I grew up sort of primary school years. Then we came back to the area. I grew up in Dorridge, just south of the city.
I thought you were going to say that you were conceived in Birmingham.
Well, that would have been the best story, wouldn't it?
What do you love about Birmingham?
Well, it's quite interesting when you come up because I've, you know, like I said, my primary school years were spent in its suburbs. Still got a lot of family in and around the city, you know, from my mum's side. And then, but it's sort of gone away. Don't even say go away. I wasn't even conscious that I was sort of, apart from the connection through family, you know, I'd essentially made my life and career in London. And so in a way, coming back to do this job and seeing the city from the outside and seeing, it's partly what we were talking about earlier, kind of see a city with this immense possibility. That's what I keep thinking. It's got this, amazing, exciting cultural mix. Got this, it's a city of immigration. That's like my dad. That's the reason why he came. Is like, oh God, we could get a job there. And it's got all these amazing people, literally from around the world. That's why I say it's an international city. It's and that needs to be celebrated. Everyone in Birmingham who's concerned about these things should be thinking about how to promote Birmingham as being an international city. I think because that's it's got everything. It's got the people to do it. It's got the institutions to do it, and we just need to sort of club together a bit more. I think.
When do you?
Because all that excitement, it's incredibly vibrant city, and I think it's on the cusp of, sort of really big cultural renaissance. I think.
Let's hope so. That's what we want with Birmingham itself. And I love Birmingham Rep. I think it's brilliant. I just with all you guys, what you're doing and everything else like that. When do you realistically see the Rep reopening? Obviously, I know there's a massive question mark. Some people suddenly saying, oh, it could be August. Some people saying it could be October. Some people saying, well, wait there, you know what? Forget everything this year. We're looking at 2021. Have you kind of penciled in things where you're incorporating various strategies where you're going, you know what, we need 2 meter gaps, we'll still get people through the door, or double the price to make sure we're covering our costs? I don't know.
I think doubling the price is probably the last thing we'll do, but mind you, it's a good thought. I've not thought about that. We could, this last 2 months has really been a process of writing a plan one day, getting up the next morning, and then ripping it up, because we can only, us as an industry-wide, theatre obviously is all about getting loads of people in one place, which is the last thing people want to do now at the moment still. Of course people want to see their close friends and family, and that's starting to happen now, but we can only as an industry really follow what the public health regulations are telling us. So, and just as a business, of course, which it is ultimately, although Birmingham Rep does get some, Arts Council funding, doesn't in any way cover the costs of even the building, even running the building and staff. It doesn't even cover that. So we've got to make sure when we open our doors and put something on our stages that we can generate income from it. Otherwise, we'll go down the plug hole. So that's what's sort of uppermost in our mind at the moment, is choosing the right time to come back. But it doesn't mean that we can't do anything. In fact, we are, like I say, we're doing what we can online, and that includes the sometimes hidden parts of what a theatre like Birmingham Rep does, and does really brilliantly, which is all the creative learning, and our work with schools has gone online, and we're continuing to do it. All the sort of community engagement work, and working with the youth theatres, fantastic company called Lightpost Theatre we work with. We've got various people in community groups that we're continuing to do all of that. So we are working in one sense. We just can't put on shows. But I think the next step is going to be some of the things we've mentioned. How can we and do we put on potentially shows that we've rehearsed and then live stream? We do it in a digital way with maybe some socially distanced audience, actually in the auditorium as well, and then slowly build up when public confidence is returning, into full shows, which I think will probably be, definitely at the very back end of this year, or even into next year. But why I can't be definitive about that is because the public health isn't definitive yet. We don't really know what the reality of that is yet.
Maybe that you could take a leaf out of football at the moment, where they're just kind of doing it behind closed doors. Yeah. And you have cardboard cutouts sitting in the audience, and you showcase that. I'm not saying bigger shows would be quite interesting, though the smaller shows, assume there's definitely something there. But then again, it's testing material where people might be going, I want to test this. I want to do a short play about this. Maybe something that you do in the studio. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out, which yeah. I'm sorry, this wasn't a creative kind of conversation, but
no. But I mean, there's literally we're having these conversations all the time, not just within the team at the Rep, but also, you know, lots of other theatres that we're in contact with, and other people in our industry we're in contact with, you know, and to me it shows what a truly, you know, awful. I mean, by the way, let me just say, of course, I'm concerned with putting on shows. You know, I'm part of the theatre industry, and that's important to me. But it pales into insignificance in terms of the reality of this as an illness, and the amount of work that, you know, NHS and key workers are doing and have been doing right from the beginning. We're the cherry on the cake, as it were. You know, they're the cake. But everyone likes the cherry on the cake, and we're looking forward to the time when we can get back to the cherry on the cake, which is, you know, everyone enjoying their life and going and seeing friends and being out in pubs and clubs and restaurants and going to theatres. We hope, fingers crossed. But we are definitely doing all we can, and to return to the point, it's a indicator of what a huge crisis this is that, you know, in general, people who work in theatre are really, you know, they're creative people. They're used to finding solutions. So if you say to someone, well, you can only have half the budget, you still got to put on the show, they'll do it. If you say, well, you know, you've got to double up, you've got to play 3 characters now, they'll do it. You know, they're used to coming up with creative solutions and sort of going, well, just get the show on. Nobody's come up with a solution to this. Throughout the entire industry, throughout the last 2.5 months, there isn't one. I can guarantee you that. There just isn't one until public health regulations are such where everybody feels confident they can get back together.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Being frank, being honest, I've really enjoyed it. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as well. Before we go, has anybody ever said to you, they must have, when you've got your flat cap on, you look like Ron Howard?
What? Oh, that's good.
No, surely. They must have said that.
Nobody's ever said that.
No way. I don't believe that.
What they have said is, occasionally, maybe that was before I grew a beard, but anyway, they said, oh, you should be on EastEnders. Be part of the Mitchell family.
Gosh. But listen, I'm going to just stop recording. I'm going to stop recording, and thank you so much for your time, mate.
Thank you.
Just do that first.